Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we're discussing a watch launched in 2022. This is the Panerai Submersible QuarantaQuattro Esteel PAM01287. QuarantaQuattro, 44 millimeters. In Italian, of course, Panerai made in Switzerland, but inspired historically by Italian naval combat watches. This is a kinder and gentler take on that, as it is created from Esteel, a recycled steel used by Panerai in certain references. As per the name, 44 millimeters in diameter, 13.6 millimeters thick, making it one of the thinnest submersibles. From lug tip to lug tip, 54.2 millimeters, with a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, it is a big watch. I would say it fits me, but I wouldn't wear it on a smaller wrist. So 16 centimeters, you're fine. The case effectively wears square. So even though there's a bit of lug overlap, it's not unsightly, and it doesn't seem unnatural, as the original Panerai diving instruments, which included, among other things, depth gauges and compasses. Sometimes they were worn on the wrist, but historically some of those instruments were also worn on the bicep. So big has always been the look and will always be the look with these watches. Now the timepiece you see does feature Verde Smeraldo, which is kind of the Italian way of saying emerald green. It's got a little bit of a Rolex Hulk vibe to it. And surprisingly, in profile, this would fit under a cuff, even some sleeves on shirts. Absolutely every jacket cuff would clear this well. The strap is robust, but you don't want to take this strap swimming. It is calfskin on the bottom. It is a brand new Panerai factory strap. There's some bolstering to add thickness. It's a tactical textile on the top with a little bit of gusseting in leather to prevent gouging. We have a matching Panerai stainless steel trapezoidal pin buckle. This is what would have once upon a time been called the Panerai 1950 case, emblematic of the 6152 combat watch that became the principal Panerai offering during the 1950s, and so it's a little bit more true to history than the Alessandro Bettarini Tunican case that came out with the original civilian Panerai in the 90s. This is a little bit more true in terms of its size, but really in terms of its lines. We have all satination with the exception of some highlights on the bezel. Rolling around, you can see that this Panerai uses a special quick release system. The bars that retain the strap, you press this trigger and then you push them through. This is a more upscale solution than Panerai's recent resort to spring bars. So when you see this system, you know that you're not getting a truly entry-level Panerai watch. Taking a quick look at the crown guard, this is the most iconic piece of design in all of dive watch history, possibly even more than the Mercedes hands on the Rolex Submariner, because frankly, there are Mercedes hands on other Rolex models. At Panerai, you know you are looking at some variety of Luminor when you see that crown guard. You know what brand, you know what model line, and of course this is a Luminor submersible. This answered a question posed during the Rolex era of Panerai watches back in the 30s and 40s when Rolex was making the watches. They were all manual wind, and the oyster cases had threaded screw-down crowns, so you would be threading in through the case seals full time, and those crown and stem seals would eventually be worn down by the need to constantly wind the watch and thread through it as you took the crown out and put it back in. So the solution was to create a system that merely compressed and then decompressed the crown seals, and so this was born. Now it gives you other advantages. For one, a shouldered crown guard still leaves the crown vulnerable to a parallel impact. The other problem is that it's easy to leave a threaded crown turned out a few turns, so it looks like it's down, but it's not water resistant, whereas this is much more obvious, making it difficult to drown your watch. You can also see, since 2007, there's a little roller bearing inside the cam lobe called the runner that makes the action a little bit smoother. And of course, Esteel, Panerai wants you to know that this is made of recycled steel. Okay, that's nice. Frankly, I don't think this quantity of steel is going to be a make or break for the environment, but every little bit helps. So, to recap, preserving the crown seals, iconic design, less danger of drowning your watch, and it's a lot easier to manipulate the crown when your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved, because as soon as you raise this lever, the crown turns. It's not like you have to thread it out. Sometimes when you're dealing with a screw-down crown, it can get very tightly threaded down, and when you really need to remove it, you can't do it. This makes it easy. Couple of other features here. We have a hacking or stop seconds function. We also have a quick set date, so if you wish, you can rapidly cycle the date should the watch run down or encounter an irregular length month. And in good taste, Panerai made the date disc the same color as the dial. The dial is green lacquer, and if you look, you can see it's a gradient from light at the top to dark at the bottom, symbolizing the descent from the surface as you wear your submersible. Now, these are applique indices, and it's a more upscale look for Panerai, which is typically known for printed dials and sandwich dials. Taking a quick look, the watch lives up to its name. Luminor, once upon a time, was a radioactive paint. In the modern era, Luminor has been the model line with the distinctive device protecting the crown. Now you see, Panerai gives us this wonderful, chunky, incredibly vocal and mechanical feeling 60-click bezel. It has a big pearl. You line up that pearl with the minute hand, you can see differential lume, so it's easy to reference the minute hand and the bezel pearl in the dark. Also note that the watch features a luminescent seconds hand. Every dive watch should have this, not all of them do, so you know it's running if you're about to dive in the dark or you are diving in the dark. You can also see that the crosshairs of the small seconds are luminescent, which makes it easier to gauge seconds as they pass in the dark. We have little raised, relieved, polished indices and the quarter numerals, but you can see that there is a glossy green ceramic insert in the bezel so that it's very scratch resistant. Now, flipping it all over, you can't see much, but you can see the SLC, which was the pig or the manned torpedo, used by Decima Flotilla, Italian commandos, most notably during the raid on Alexandria. The idea is that these pioneering frogmen would ride this self-propelled bomb, attach it magnetically to the bottom of a battleship, and then hopefully clear out before it went off. This was not a suicide run, but the SLC, as it's called, is visible on the case back, and you can see that the watch features a little Esteel promo. A note that it is a 300-meter diver, and under all of this, a Valfleurier-designed Panerai P900 movement. Valfleurier is a company inside of Richemont that provides additional watchmaking muscle for companies that aren't naturally or natively movement manufacturers, or which need a movement that is more economical, and many Valfleurier movements are actually spread across IWC, Piaget, Panerai, and Baume & Mercier. So Valfleurier is one of several sources for movements inside of Richemont, and that's where this comes from. It's an automatic winder. It's a 3-day power reserve. It does have the hacking and stop seconds. It is a relatively robust movement, and it pivots on 25 joules. It has a 4 hertz beat rate. Panerai watches traditionally have not been about the movements, but this one's nice because it does give you a useful 3 days of power reserve, often described as a weekender. For example, if you were to take the watch off on a Friday night, it would still be running on Monday morning. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.